Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. Today we are kicking off a new format for our podcast. We are doing a mix of music and talk. If you've been going through our archives at any point in time, you've noticed that most of what we offer is interviews, people talking about how important it is to utilize medical marijuana, how to make certain that cannabis is available for those who need it, how to turn hemp into a viable product such as hempcrete or paper or some kind of fantastic fiber like a pair of jeans or a lovely jacket. But there's another aspect to this fantastic plant, and that's the community, of which we have so many talented musicians who have sent to Time for Hemp their music along the way. Over the past several years, I've acquired quite a large library of amazing, talented vocalists and guitar players and people who write wonderful tunes and lyrics that are all focused on cannabis hemp, which you can bet is not often heard on AM, FM radio. But we want to make certain that they are heard here on the broadcasting network. So I'm going to be going through my library of music that's been sent to me and share that with you over these next several sessions. I hope to do more than just one. This is the first of, I hope to be many, of deep dives into cannabis. And I do mean a deep dive into cannabis in such a way that we all learn about how this plant works as far as being a great medicine, how it works as being a fabulous tasting food additive, what it is about the plant that makes it so useful for cloth and paper, and why it is it can be a great cash crop and create many different jobs in our own backyard. Do make it a point to go through our website. You will find many other different types of podcasts. Some are video, some are just audio. We've also got a nice blog that you can sit and read if you got a moment or two waiting at a bus stop or taking a break in the afternoon. You want something to read. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive as to why it is everybody needs to take time for hemp. And what that means is that we're going to take a look at the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network website and introduce it to people who've never been here and reintroduce it to people who have been here a few times and help them figure out how easy it is to find all the new updates on all of our blog feeds. We have a few. We got an audio, a video, a text, we got a newsletter, and we got something that will certainly add to your day in a positive way. That's another aspect of what we're trying to achieve here. The music that we have to offer is all about how wonderful cannabis is, and is also focused in a positive attitude, which is what we want to leave you at the end of each broadcast. So we're looking at ways to add to your day, so when you take time to say, hey, it's time for hemp, you're glad you did. With that said, we're going to kick off this segment with a little bit of music from the group The Human Revolution. They did a fantastic song called The Tree of Life. Willie Nelson is going to do a quick PSA, and then we're going to take a deep dive into why it's important to take time for hemp.
I want to tell y'all a little bit about a plant I know that can save the world. It grows long and tall and has flowers that can make your mind swirl. It's a funky plant with a fiber that is resistant to rain and mold. It's the strongest plant fiber known to man, the best rope you'll ever hold. Well, the pioneers covered up the wagon trains with a canvas made of hemp. And Washington and Jefferson grew it on their farms, said to make the most of it. The first stars and stripes were sown on hemp, the first Constitution too. This is around the world for food, fiber, oil, medicine, and fuel. And if we press its seeds, we won't have no need for any other oil. We can make paints and inks, or run our car, we'll go back next season. It'll fix the soil, the most nutritious seed we can put in our mouth with omega-6 and 3. We can feed the world with the tree of life and live sustainably. But if we cut down all the trees, we won't have nowhere to breathe. We'll grow fields of hemp instead. We can make our paper, build a house from it. It's the God's plan, growing wild and free, living the way that we ought to be. Gonna leave my children a better world than my ancestors left me. Whoa, whoa. La 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 la. Whoa, whoa.
Marijuana plant, they often call it dope, can also be made into oil or rope. Some people say you smoke it and you feel fantastic, but from hemp you can make an alternative to plastic. Made from plants, not petroleum, you see, so it won't still be around in 4003. It can biodegrade, which means there'll be less pollution. Just another reason for a hemp revolution.
The flowers of the female hemp plant make the best medicines on earth. Helps cancer and AIDS patients eat their food. Helps those with depression overcome the blues. Glaucoma, epilepsy, nausea, insomnia, stress, neurosis, psychosis, pain, PMS. All the studies have been done and all the doctors agree, but they can't make money off this plant, you see, because it's free. It grows from a seed, wild and free like we ought to be. You know the future is grown in our own backyards. If we cut down all the trees, we won't have nowhere to be. We'll grow fields of hemp instead. We can make our paper, build a house from it. It's the God's plan, growing wild and free, living the way that we ought to be. Gonna leave my children a better world than my ancestors left me. Whoa, whoa. La 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 la. Whoa, whoa.
In the mid-1930s, it was the billion-dollar crop. With the invention of the recorder that could produce it non-stop. But then a smear campaign with Mexicans to blame started making people thinking to make your brain go pop. Yeah, since then it's never stopped. It ain't like getting high for paint and crack rock. Time to bring it back to nature, time to bring back some life. Let the farmers do their job, stop giving them strife. Renewable resources, life-giving forces. Panels for your cars and saddles for your horses. DuPont, Monsanto, making the wrong choices. Suicide genes, extinguishing our voices. Cutting down the trees, polluting the 7 seas. Leaving the fate of the planet to the corporate entities. Corrupt politics, warfare, disease. Now it's time to make a change, it's time to plant seeds.
Hemp is so nutritious, you can oil seeds. It gives you all the protein you will ever need. You can make it in a sandwich with jelly or jam, or make it in a soap or a lotion for your hands. You can make it into fuel, put it right in our cars, then we won't need the oil and won't have to start wars. You can make it into paper, right, as much as you please, cause it grows like a weed and we won't have to cut trees. So put your faith in hemp, such a versatile plant, and don't let the government tell us we can't, cause hemp can help us all in so many ways, and it doesn't mean that we will all be living in a daze. Versatility, sustainability, look at history, it ain't no mystery, hemp for victory.
If we cut down all the trees, we won't have nowhere to be. We grow fields of hemp instead. We can make our paper, build a house from it. It's the God's plan, growing wild and free, living the way that we ought to be. Gonna leave my children a better world than my ancestors left me. So in this modern day and age, when we seem to lack spirituality, this one single plant can bring us back almost 10,000 years in history. To the Shiva, Piranhas, the Jesus, the Christ, to the Buddha, the pagans, the goddess, the light, to commune with all the animals, the one with all the trees, to realize the gotta seek is inside me. As the earth is a mother, we gotta take care of the earth, cause the earth is the mother that gives life birth. And we can heal all our relations with a single green plant, and we can start right now.
We got to legalize, we're gonna come alive. All the people who know what's up, gonna say what the heck we letting these suckers get away with it for. Come on and open the door. Are you with me? Are you with me? It's gonna take more than anything to shut the suckers down. We're not fooling around, but they're keeping us divided, opposite-sided. What do we Americans do? We keep buying it. Black and white, they're making us fight and still in the same racist hatred justifies violence over nature's gotta wake up to see. The real enemy is the powers that be from the opposition scene. Wake up now to nature's creation. Sacred herb can unite the nations. Gotta legalize the herb of adoration. All of its use is gonna heal the nation. Heal the nation. Heal the nation. Gonna heal the nation. Gonna heal the nation.
American farmers are losing their farms at a frightening rate. For generations, this land and the occupations that it provided were handed down from father to son. And over the years, laws passed by legislators have eroded this heritage. The government and our nation's banking system are slowly becoming this country's sole farm owners. So in order to turn the tide, the American farmer needs a successful cash crop. Now, hemp is a plant that's proven to be versatile in creating over 50,000 products, from cloth and paper to fuel and medicine. And when prohibition was leveled against liquor, it was still legal to grow corn and grapes for other purposes. Now, this should be true of hemp. Return our roots to America and help re-legalize hemp.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
All right, let's dive in. We're looking into Time for Hemp today.
Time for Hemp.
Yeah, a broadcasting network. And they've been around for a while, pushing for cannabis legalization and all things hemp.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they're veteran-owned.
Ah.
So we've got excerpts from their website, and I got to say, it's like a time capsule of the whole movement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, seriously. It's amazing how much they've done.
So from what I've read, Time for Hemp uses all kinds of platforms to get their message out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, news broadcasts, videos, all sorts of blog posts about hemp, podcasts, newsletters.
And it's amazing how much content they offer for free. Like new blog posts almost every day, podcast product reviews, all free.
Wow, that's a lot of free content.
Right. It's not something you see every day, especially for a topic like cannabis, which has been so controversial.
Yeah, that's true.
Like giving away so much for free, Time for Hemp's building a community, not just informing people.
That's a great point.
It's like they're saying, come learn about this plant. It's all here for you.
Right. Like there's no barrier to entry.
And that's a powerful way to change people's minds, especially when, the mainstream media hasn't always been so kind to cannabis.
I agree. It's definitely a different approach.
It is. Speaking of changing minds, Time for Hemp has gotten some big names to endorse them.
Like who?
Tommy Chong, Jack Heer, Dr. Tim Larry, Willie Nelson, even Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who's considered the father of cannabis research.
Oh, that's quite a list.
Yeah, having those folks back you up carries a lot of weight, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the names, though. It really shows how important Time for Hemp is in the whole movement.
Right.
These people, many of them have been fighting for legalization forever. They're giving Time for Hemp their seal of approval.
Exactly.
It shows they're a credible, respected voice in the cannabis world.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I guess to really get into it, we need to start with the man behind it all, Casper Leitch. He's the founder of Veteran, and some people even call him the father of marijuana media, which is a pretty big deal when you think about how much influence he's had.
The father of marijuana media. That's a pretty heavy title. Sounds like he's been a part of this movement for a long time.
Absolutely. And it seems like his personality is part of what makes Time for Hemp so appealing.
I bet.
Yeah, the personal touch matters, especially with a topic like cannabis that's had so much stigma.
You're right. It makes it more human.
Exactly. He got his start working with Jack Herer back in 1989. Herer wrote The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Oh, yeah. That book was huge.
It really was. It made a strong case for hemp and all its potential, like for industry and the economy as a whole. And it really put Herer on the map as a leading voice in the movement.
I bet that experience really shaped his vision for Time for Hemp.
I think it definitely did. And to give you an idea of what Leitch is like, even Dr. Tim Leary, the famous psychedelic advocate, praised his sense of humor, said he had a really quirky way about him. Even in the world of cannabis advocacy, a good laugh can go a long way.
Yeah, I can see that. Humor can be a powerful tool, especially when you're dealing with something that's been so stigmatized.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got this charismatic leader, but what about the content itself? Time for Hemp isn't just Leitch talking about stuff. They've got blogs, podcasts, video series, even a gift shop. It's like a whole cannabis universe.
Wow, that's a lot. It's really smart, though, to use all those different platforms. It lets them reach a much bigger audience and cater to all sorts of learning styles.
For sure. So let's break it down. First up, there's the News and Views blog. It's updated all the time. And they even have free music downloads.
Free music.
Yep, and it's all focused on legalization. So let's look at some of these endorsements.
Okay.
Tommy Chong talks about clowning around with Casper, which makes me think they have a fun relationship.
Yeah.
And Jack Herer says Casper's work was a real benefit to the entire marijuana legalization movement.
Wow.
That's huge praise coming from Jack Herer. He's like a legend in the cannabis world.
He is.
And then there's Dr. Tim Leary, who compares Casper's courage to his own experiences.
Interesting.
It's clear Casper's not just someone who jumped on the bandwagon. He's been fighting for this for a long time.
That's really cool.
And then there's Willie Nelson, who's not just an endorser, but also a guest on their shows.
Wow, Willie Nelson himself.
Yeah. If Willie Nelson thinks your content is good enough, you must be doing something right.
You've got a point.
But the quote from Dr. Machulam really blew me away.
The father of cannabis research.
That's him. He says, everything you ever wanted to know about cannabis, good and bad, you can find out about it at Time for Hemp.
That's a big statement.
It is. And coming from him, it suggests Time for Hemp is about more than just legalization. It's about giving people a complete picture of cannabis.
A balanced view.
Exactly. And it's that balanced approach that probably helps them appeal to such a wide range of people.
How so?
Well, they've been praised by both a former DEA agent, Sean Dunnigan, and Mark and Jody Emery, who are big-time cannabis activists.
Oh, wow, that's quite a range.
It is, right? It makes you think Time for Hemp is maybe trying to stay neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah, focusing on the information and different viewpoints, rather than pushing a specific political agenda.
That's interesting.
It's refreshing, actually, especially in today's world where everyone seems so divided.
Yeah, I agree.
It makes them a valuable resource for anyone who wants to understand the whole cannabis issue, no matter what their stance is.
I see what you mean, a good place to start learning.
But what really sets Time for Hemp apart is the incredible network of supporters they've built. And we're not talking about just a few big names here. It's a really diverse group of voices, from people like comedian Tommy Chong to medical experts like Dr. Andrew Weil.
That's pretty impressive. It sounds like their message is resonating with people from all walks of life.
It really is. To give you an example, Tommy Chong said he loved clowning around with Casper on the show.
Haha, I can see that.
It shows that even when they're discussing serious topics, they don't take themselves too seriously.
I bet that makes them more appealing to listeners and makes the topic less intimidating.
Definitely. But on a more serious note, Mark and Jody Emery, the Canadian cannabis activists, they said Time for Hemp gave them a platform during Mark's legal battles. It really highlights their role as a champion for those fighting for legalization.
Yeah, they're not afraid to tackle those controversial issues, and they give a voice to people who might not have one otherwise.
Right, and it's not just individual stories. N.J. Weidman, another big activist, said they have a global reach. He thinks they're a big part of the international conversation about cannabis.
It's huge, especially when you think about how cannabis laws and attitudes are different all over the world. It's like they're helping change the global perspective on cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. And their dedication to honest journalism is something people have noticed. Howard Wooldridge, who founded Citizens Opposing Prohibition, called Time for Hemp the most important broadcast in the history of the war on drugs.
Wow, that's a big statement.
It really is. And it speaks to the power of independent media. They're challenging the status quo. And it's not just activists who are impressed. Hugh Downs, the famous journalist, he was skeptical about cannabis at first, but he changed his mind after hearing Casper speak at a conference.
That's amazing. It shows how Time for Hemp is changing hearts and minds. reaching people who might not normally hear those pro-cannabis viewpoints.
Absolutely. Sadly, we lost a great advocate in 2012. Kentucky politician Gatewood Galbraith. He actually believed Time for Hemp would be a key reason why global cannabis prohibition would end.
That's powerful. He saw them as a force for change.
He did. And it's really incredible to see how this one network has touched so many lives and influenced so many people's views on cannabis.
It really makes you think, what is it about Time for Hemp that really connects with people?
I think it's a few things. It's their charismatic leader, the diverse content, and most importantly, their commitment to truth and justice.
It's clear that they're not just reporting on this movement, they're actively shaping it. And they're doing it with this passion and humor that's really infectious.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so many more supporters and testimonials we haven't even mentioned yet.
Well, let's get to them. I'm curious to hear more about the people whose lives have been touched by Time for Hemp.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about how many people they've reached. It's like this ripple effect going out from their platform.
Totally. And it's not just limited to activists and enthusiasts either. I mean, we even have testimonials from people like Norm Stamper. You know, he was the Seattle police chief.
Oh, wow.
And he actually said that Time for Hemp gave him unbiased information about cannabis, which helped him challenge his own views.
You know, that's really powerful. They're able to reach across those divides. It's not just preaching to the choir. They're talking to people who might have totally different perspectives.
Exactly. And speaking of challenging perspectives, there's Judge James Gray. He was the first sitting judge in the U.S. to publicly speak out against marijuana prohibition. He's been on Time for Hemp quite a few times. And he's got nothing but good things to say about the work they do. That's a big deal. It shows their message is getting through even in the legal system, which has been one of the biggest roadblocks to cannabis reform.
Yeah. It's a sign that things are changing. And it's not just law enforcement either. They've made a real impact on the medical community too, like Dr. Lester Grinspoon, a Harvard psychiatrist.
Wow, a Harvard psychiatrist.
Yeah, he's been on the show a bunch of times. And he's a really respected figure in the field. So him being willing to engage with Time for Hemp shows that the conversation is evolving.
Makes sense. More and more doctors are starting to recognize the potential benefits of cannabis.
Absolutely. And one of the most heartwarming stories comes from LV Musica. She's one of the last surviving U.S. federal marijuana patients.
Really?
She's known Leitch for a long time, and she describes him as this really steadfast advocate, someone who's dedicated his life to spreading the truth about cannabis.
It reminds you that this movement is about real people, people whose lives have been affected by prohibition.
It really does. And it's so interesting to see how Time for Hemp has connected with musicians too, like Muck Sticky, who's been featured on their platform. He loves their music selection. They play everything from classic jazz to modern rap. He said it's the perfect soundtrack for smoking out with friends.
Nice. They're not shying away from the cultural side of cannabis either. It's inspired music and art and creativity for centuries.
I know, right? And when it comes to the history of cannabis and the whole legalization movement, we have to mention Chris Conrad. He's a cannabis legal defense expert. And he's been with Leitch since the very beginning and says he basically invented the whole marijuana media landscape as we know it.
Wow, that's high praise coming from someone who's seen it all.
It really is. But their influence goes way beyond activists and enthusiasts, even Ethan Nadelman, who co-founded the Drug Policy Alliance. He praises them for creating a space for intelligent discussion about marijuana legalization.
That's interesting because it means they're reaching people who aren't necessarily involved in the movement. Just people who are curious and want to learn more.
Exactly. And even Kyle MacDonald, the lead singer of Slightly Stupid. He appreciates how Time for Hemp educates people about cannabis. He thinks they're a great way to reach a bigger audience and break down those stereotypes.
That's awesome. It's cool to see musicians using their platform to promote education.
Totally. And for people who really want to go deep into the world of cannabis, Richard Lee, who founded Oaksterdam University, he calls Leitch a really effective professor. He compares listening to the Time for Hemp archives to getting a master's degree in cannabis.
Wow, that's quite a compliment.
It is. And they've been a driving force in bringing people together and building a community. And their impact has even reached into politics. Former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson said Time for Hemp taught him about the cost of the war on drugs.
That's fascinating.
I know, right? He's been on the show a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And he actually calls Leitch one of the sharpest talk show hosts he's ever met.
So they're influencing people across the political spectrum, challenging their views and making them rethink drug policy.
Exactly. And they've even had a big impact on law enforcement officials, like Peter Christ, who founded Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He remembers co-hosting Leap Day with Leitch every Wednesday. They'd interview members of the organization. He says he misses those days, but he finds comfort in listening back to those conversations in the archives.
That's a sweet story. It shows that this is about more than just politics. It's about people connecting with each other and finding common ground.
It really is. And their influence has spread way beyond the U.S. Mark Emery, who founded Cannabis Culture magazine, he calls Time for Hemp one of the loudest voices in cannabis culture. And he credits Leitch with pioneering the medical cannabis movement.
It's a reminder that this is a global movement, and Time for Hemp is a big part of that.
Yeah, they are. And they're so committed to providing a platform for all the different voices in the movement. Paul Armentano, deputy director of NORML, he's been on the show a lot. And he appreciates the chance to share news with the global marijuana movement. He was especially excited when High Times magazine named Leitch Freedom Fighter of the Month back in 2013.
High Times is like the Bible of cannabis culture. That's a big honor.
It is. And their influence has even reached museums. Ben Dronkers, who founded Senthi Seeds and the Amsterdam Hemp Museum. He was so impressed with Time for Hemp that he played their series on a loop at his museum.
Wow, that's incredible. It shows that they're not just entertainment, they're an educational resource.
It's pretty amazing. They've really touched so many lives and helped change the world's view on cannabis.
It makes you wonder, are they just documenting history or are they creating it?
You know, that's a great question. They've definitely played a huge role in shaping the narrative and bringing people together. But I think it goes even deeper than that. Their success raises a really important question about independent media. Their success with this format, it really makes you think about the power of independent media, especially nowadays with the internet and everything.
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought. There's just so much information out there. It's easy to get lost in it all. But Time for Hemp, they've cut through all that noise and built a really dedicated following.
And they haven't had to compromise their values to do it. They've stuck to their mission, education, advocacy, and honest journalism.
It makes you think about the listener. What can we take away from Time for Hemp's story? Why should we care about this network? A bunch of veterans dedicated to cannabis.
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest takeaways is how important it is to get different perspectives. Time for Hemp, they don't shy away from tough conversations.
Yeah.
They're bringing all sorts of people together, comedians, scientists, politicians, everyone to talk about cannabis from every angle.
Right, and that's what lets listeners form their own opinions. They're not just being told what to think, they're given the tools to figure it out themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes beyond just cannabis. It's about being open-minded about everything and actually listening to other points of view.
Another big takeaway is perseverance. Time for Hemp has been fighting for legalization for decades. They faced so many obstacles and setbacks, but they never gave up.
It is inspiring. It just shows you that even when things are tough, passion and commitment can really make a difference.
Absolutely. Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and dedication and the will to keep pushing even when it's hard.
And we can't forget about humor. They manage to tackle serious topics, but still keep things light and fun.
That's important. It makes the information easier to digest and more engaging. It's not just dry facts, it's a conversation with personality.
And that passion is contagious. You can tell everyone involved really believes in what they're doing. It comes through in their work.
So we've talked about their background and endorsements, but what about the actual content? What kind of stuff are they putting out there?
Okay, let's get into that.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, so let's dig into the stuff that Time for Hemp is actually putting out there.
Sounds good.
We talked about all those different blogs they have.
Right.
It's obvious they've got a plan to reach different people.
Oh, I agree.
Like take their Time for Hemp News and Views blog.
Okay.
It's all about, hemp news and leaders in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
But get this. They give you free music downloads with every blog post.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a little bonus for learning.
That's pretty clever.
Right.
So they've got it all.
Right. Learn about hemp, join the community, and even buy hemp products.
A whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And we can't forget the podcasts.
Oh, yeah, those.
Talking about all sorts of cannabis and hemp legalization stuff.
Nice.
And they have new interviews and stuff from their archives.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a way to stay up to date and also learn about the history of the movement.
I like that, looking back and looking forward.
Exactly. They also mentioned some programs that sound really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, they get some really interesting guests like James E. Gierach, who's a lawyer specializing in marijuana law. And they've also had Tony Landry on the show, who's a big medical marijuana advocate. They dive into some pretty hot topics, and it gets pretty heated sometimes.
That's really cool.
Totally agree. And if you're looking for hemp stuff, they have the Time for Hemp gift shop. It's on eBay and Etsy.
It's really impressive how they've built up this whole ecosystem around cannabis and hemp. It's not just information and advocacy, it's like a whole lifestyle.
Totally. And there's also the Joint Conversations blog. It's a little bit of everything, really. One article I saw was about cannabis-infused recipes for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
It just goes to show that they're exploring every aspect of cannabis culture, from the serious stuff to the lighthearted fun.
I love that. It shows how cannabis can be part of everyday life. It's not just about politics and activism.
Exactly. And to top it all off, they've got a quarterly newsletter. You can download it for free. They really make it easy to stay informed.
Seems like it. It makes sense, though. Accessibility is key when you're trying to educate people and advocate for change.
That's a really good point. And their mission isn't just about promoting cannabis. It's about educating people and advocating for legalization. They're fighting misinformation and empowering listeners with knowledge.
That's so important. There are so many myths and misconceptions surrounding cannabis.
I know, right?
What else is there?
Okay, this one's a little out there. It's called Meet the Hempsons.
The Hempsons?
Yeah, I think they're playing off The Simpsons.
Ha. That's funny.
It shows they don't take themselves too seriously, you know?
Yeah, a little humor can go a long way.
Exactly. It makes the whole thing more approachable.
So it's clear they're trying to reach a lot of different people.
Oh, yeah.
People who are already into cannabis, but maybe also those who are curious but don't know much.
Right. The educational stuff is perfect for those folks.
Like those blogs and podcasts we were talking about.
Yeah, and those big endorsements help too.
They build trust.
Totally. It's like they're saying, hey, if Tommy Chong and Dr. Mitchullam trust us, maybe you can too.
It's a good strategy.
And they got something for everyone, you know?
Right. Different paths, different interests.
Exactly. And the podcasts, for those who want to go really deep.
So they're catering to different levels of involvement.
And don't forget those free music downloads. That's got to pull in some younger folks.
Yeah, it's a smart way to introduce them to the topic.
Right. It's like, hey, enjoy some music and learn about cannabis while you're at it.
Makes it less intimidating.
Definitely. So with all this content and all these different audiences, what's their main message? You know, what are they trying to say?
I think at their core, they're fighting against all the negative stuff that's been said about cannabis for so long.
The stigma, the misinformation.
Exactly.
They're pushing for legalization, education, and responsible use.
But they're not just shouting slogans, they're giving evidence, sharing stories, really talking about the complexities.
Right, and they're not afraid to talk about the injustices of the war on drugs and, you know, how messed up prohibition is.
They're giving a voice to the people who've been ignored and silenced.
Exactly. And they're doing it all with a sense of humor, which makes it even more powerful.
It's not just about the serious stuff, it's about the joy and creativity that cannabis can bring.
Right. They're showing that you can be serious about cannabis and still have fun with it.
And that's important because it makes it more relatable.
Now, remember how we said Time for Hemp is veteran-owned?
Yeah.
The founder, Casper, Leitch, he was in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that experience influenced his approach to cannabis advocacy.
That's a good point.
Like maybe the discipline and the willingness to stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah, even when it's hard.
And maybe being exposed to different cultures and ways of thinking.
It could have opened his mind to new ideas.
Right. And it makes you think about how many other veterans might have found their way to the cannabis movement because of their experiences.
That's a really interesting thought.
It shows how cannabis can bring people together from all walks of life.
I like that.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and talk about the whole legal situation with cannabis. Things have changed so much in recent years, with more states legalizing for medical and recreational use.
It's been a whirlwind.
This must have a big impact on what Time for Hemp does.
Right, sure.
On the one hand, it's great for the industry, right?
Oh, yeah. More access, more businesses, more research.
But it also creates new challenges.
Like what?
All the legal stuff, regulations.
Oh, yeah. It gets complicated.
It's not as easy as just saying, cannabis is legal, let's go.
Right. There's a lot to figure out.
And that's where Time for Hemp's experience really comes in handy.
How so?
They've been dealing with this for decades. They've seen it all.
The good and the bad.
Exactly. They know how to adapt.
They can guide people through the legal maze.
Yeah. They give updates on laws, legal battles, all that stuff.
Keeping everyone informed.
And they don't shy away from pointing out the problems that still exist.
The hypocrisy, the unfairness.
They're fighting for policies that are fair and just.
It's a constant struggle.
It is, but Time for Hemp is in it for the long haul.
They're dedicated.
They want a world where cannabis is not just legal, but also available to everyone who needs it.
That's a powerful vision.
It is. Now, all this talk about legalization and the future of the industry makes me wonder.
I don't know what.
As we're wrapping up this look at Time for Hemp, it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much there.
It really shows how much they've done.
They're more than just a network. They're like a history of the whole cannabis movement.
It's true. All the struggles and wins, the science and the culture, they've captured it all.
It's amazing when you consider how long they've been advocating for cannabis, even when it was super controversial.
I know. They faced so much pushback, but they never gave up.
They knew that eventually the truth would win out.
And they were willing to wait, knowing that more information meant more changed minds.
And more steps towards a world where cannabis is seen for what it is.
Right. And we can't forget the people behind all of this.
The heart of the movement.
The farmers, the patients, the activists, everyone who believes in this plant.
Time for Hemp connects them, gives them a community.
And a platform to learn, support each other, and work towards a better future.
It's really inspiring.
So we've talked about the challenges they might face, the potential for big corporations to take over.
Right.
But what about technology? How will that change things?
Oh, that's a huge factor. AI, blockchain, personalized medicine, all of that could totally shake up the cannabis world.
It's mind-blowing. And how will Time for Hemp adapt?
They'll have to be creative, find new ways to reach people, stay relevant.
It's like a whole new frontier.
But they've been pioneers from the start. I doubt they'll back down now.
No way. They have a real chance to shape the future of cannabis.
To make sure it's responsible and fair.
And benefits everyone.
It's exciting to think about. So listener, as you learn more about cannabis,
remember Time for Hemp.
Their dedication, their courage, their belief in truth and justice.
Remember that this plant has the power to heal and connect us.
And remember that the fight for legalization isn't over.
Stay informed, stay involved, and keep asking questions.
The future of cannabis is being written right now.
And we all have a part to play in it.
That's all for our deep dive into Time for Hemp. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Well, time now for our weekly look at more unusual places to invest your money in our alternative investment series. This week we're focusing on industrial hemp, but can the crop help you grow your profits? Let's find out.
It may look like a marijuana plant, but industrial hemp contains less than 1% of the psychoactive component THC. There is still stigma around the plant. In America, hemp was a large part of its commercial industry, but it was put under the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, and by the 1950s, production ended. As the US currently debates this law, 30 countries around the globe cultivate the crop, with China the #1 producer. Hemp is becoming a growing industry thanks to its uses in textiles and construction.
I think if 10 years ago, if you stopped somebody on the street and said, what is hemp, they would probably think it was something that you smoked. But now, I think with the construction and hemp insulation taking off, then I think that the general public are becoming much more aware of what hemp is and realizing that it is a crop that can be grown here in Europe, and it's being made into environmentally friendly products.
The crop can be rotated between cereals and oilseeds, providing farmers with extra revenue.
It's low on inputs, particularly chemicals, because it has a zero chemical requirement. It doesn't suffer from any pests or diseases that would warrant a spray, and its quick growth in covering the ground will blot out any weed competition. So it's a fantastic crop for cleaning up the ground and profitable for the farmer to grow.
Currently, about 15,000 hectares of hemp are being produced in the European Union. The seed produces food, biodiesel and paints. The fibre from the stalk is where paper and textiles are derived from, while the shiv produces construction materials. One company that is at the forefront of hemp production is Britain's Line Technology. With a turnover of around $4 million, the company creates everything from concrete blocks to panels for the BMW 5 Series. It may be a versatile crop that also boasts green credentials, but can it grow you a profit?
Yes, it is. It is a profitable crop both for the grower, for the processor, for the construction companies, and the people that will be living in those structures, because there's huge saving on energy to be had in hemp construction.
Welcome back to Time for Hemp. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Without you, our audience, we go unheard, and we think it's important that every ear on earth get to hear the truth about how wonderful cannabis hemp is. I'd like to give a special thank you to the producer of the Deep Dive segment, Albie Inman, and a special thank you to the Time for Hemp correspondents, Bud Stoner and Anita Morhai, for helping to raise the voice of the broadcasting network. And this is the conclusion of this segment. I want to thank you for tuning in. We're going to be doing more like this. I hope, as I said, where we have music and talk. And as we go out the gate today, I want to pay a big salute to one of my heroes, Robin Williams, no longer with us. He is sorely missed. The humor that he brought into this world, the laughter that he left behind is just, well, it's better than music. I think the sound of laughter can oftentimes be considered a better sound than the sound of music, because the sound of laughter is so beautiful. And if Robin Williams was still here, and if he had one thing to share in life, I think it would be a different side of Robin. He is very funny, very, very good at slapstick, very good at doing droll comedy and quick wit. But he was also very insightful, and he put together a special public service announcement called Make Your Life Spectacular. And then I want to follow that with one of my favorite all-time songs that came my way when I began doing the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network. It's called Our World by Hemp Street Rhythm. And Hemp Street Rhythm is no longer a band. Most of the band members have passed away, sad to say. But their music lives on here on the Big Broadcasting Network, and this song is called Our World, and when I got done listening to it, I felt like getting up off my rear end and getting busy trying to make this world a better place than when I came into the world. After meeting Jack Hare and getting involved in the cannabis movement, I come to truly believe that our world can be a better place if we start using hemp for paper, fiber, fuel, medications, creating jobs as a cash crop, as a way of helping the human race grow without leaving behind a lot of waste. And this plant is so durable, so viable, so unique. It's such a gift from God that you can only say to yourself, this plant was designed to make our world better. And I really believe that's true. Cannabis hemp was given to us by the maker of the universe to help make our world prosper, our world strong, and our world a happy place full of love. Well, I know it sounds like, I'm from a different generation, like I'm out of the middle of the last century. I am, and I can't help but believe it really is true. One of the oldest songs in the world that became so popular in my generation, called All You Need Is Love by an old-timey group called the Beatles, I think still stands true today. All you really do need is love, and we try to project that here at our broadcasting network as well. Positive attitude, trying to stay focused on making the world a better place, an easier place to be in, and leave everybody with a smile on their face and a thought in their head and a warm feeling in their heart here at Time for Hemp.
As we come to the end of this phase of our life, we find ourselves trying to remember the good times and trying to forget the bad times. And we find ourselves thinking about the future. We start to worry, thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be in 10 years? But I say to you, Hey, look at me. Please, don't worry so much. Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish. Think of me. And make your life spectacular. I know I did.
Violence over what politicians can shove it up there. As you know, we're trying to make a change by showing everyone that inside we're all the same. Forget about race, forget about your color, and eye for an eye, just love one another. It's not that hard. Well, our world is crazy. Make a change. Will everyone hang on, let this music marinate? You're hearing it firsthand from M Street. From our hearts and minds, body and soul. People think they do, but they just don't know. Open up your eyes, take a look around. If you let them, this world will bring you down. Stand back up, don't get stuck. Let these words refill your cup. Motivational speaking is what we do. This world is suffering, don't let them get you. Don't let them get you, no. Well, our world is crazy. To even make a change. Too lazy to make a change. Too crazy, it drives me insane. We can do it. There ain't nothing to it. There are no limits, no, no, no. You don't abuse it. Our world. Our world. It's like this, we'll fight for your rights, stay hyped, Live for the times you wish you could have seen twice. Get it right the first time, watch out for the fine line. Most punishment is never even really worth the crime. Yo, well life flies while you grow, so don't die young, man, but never get old. I said moments like these right here, yo. I said what I live for, what I live for. A time when we can be one, as we were when we were first created. Come together as the new generation. Oh, what a sensation. Yo, don't get left out, but don't let it down. Get ready, cause this shit's about to get heavy. Hip street rhythms in your face, coming at you right now. Come on! Challenge all of you to make a difference. I challenge all of you. I challenge all of you. I challenge all of you, oh, to make a change. I challenge all of you. I challenge all of you. I challenge all of you, oh, to make a difference.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.